Top Shop on the PlayStation 1. This game is a virtual board game, and while that isn't a wholly new idea, I mean, games like this have existed since the Famicom, this game really doesn't try to do anything to change the formula either. The story is you are a jerkbag cat entrepreneur. You go around picking fights with other wannabe entrepreneurs because, well, if you didn't have any sort of competition, there wouldn't be much of a game here. Really, you're just a jerk-ass cat picking fights with people in order to beat them in a game of capitalism. So here's the deal. You start out in a giant mall. Every single stall in the mall is empty. You can roll your little pencil, which will dictate how many spaces you move. If you land on an empty stall, you can purchase it. Each independent chunk of the mall will also have different stores. Each of these stores will cost different amounts of money. The more expensive stores will of course stock more expensive items, whereas the less expensive stores will not cost you as much to buy, but you'll also make less money from what you sell. If another character lands on your store, they have to buy at least one object from that store. If your store runs out of supplies, they can then buy that store out from under you, and then put up their own store in that place. Likewise, if you land on any store that you own, you can restock any of the other stores that you own. And the nice thing about this is, if you have the money to do so, you can basically just purchase an entire stock of the most expensive object, forcing your opponent's hand to spend more money, and then give you more money in return, thus helping you get closer to the target goal of having X amount of funds by the end of the game. Now, in addition to being able to move forwards and backwards, there's also an extra space on your pencil labeled E. This essentially skips your turn, but instead you get to pick a card. The cards you pick are random, but there's a ton of different effects, such as gaining X amount of money, losing X amount of money, moving forward or back, completely killing the ability to use the elevator, which can really screw some people up, allowing you to turn around at any given point, as well as equipping squeaky shoes, which I've demonstrated with my first roll of the game. Good game, guys. Good game. Now, the only other rule I haven't touched on is when you pass the bank, the place where you start, you'll gain extra funds. If you are lucky enough, and I do emphasize luck a lot in this game, if you're lucky enough to land on the square, you get a bonus. You also gain a point every time you do this. You also gain points by purchasing items from your competing entrepreneurs. Now, points are important because they add a whole bunch of different effects. When you swing by a bank, you can cash those points in for things like a certain amount of money based on how many stores you have, the ability to open a random store anywhere in the mall, or alternatively, shut down any one of your opponent's stores. Or if you're lucky enough to gain 99 points, win the game instantaneously. Now, there's a ton of different options with how you can spend your points, but there is one that just seems flat out better than all the rest. And for whatever reason, the computer doesn't seem to take advantage of this, like, at all. In fact, the only one I've noticed they take advantage of is open up a random store. But there's one that gives you $300 times the number of stores you have. So if you spend your entire first couple turns just buying out stalls, by the time you have enough points to take advantage of this, well, it's basically the shortcut to beating the game. Near as I can tell, it seems like the easiest way to beat the game, and it was how I won most of my matches after this one. So the AI isn't terribly bright on utilizing their assets to their fullest extent, so yeah. Now, aside from how random this game is, which, you know, it's trying to emulate a board game, so there's a certain level of that makes sense, there are a few other problems with it. First and foremost is how bloody sodding long a single match can take. I mean, all the footage you're going to see is the first round, smallest map, with the AI set to the highest speed, just so I could try and capture an entire match, so that you could kind of see what's going on. This very simple, very basic high-speed match took no less than 2.5 sodding hours. And seriously, it's just this. That's not to say this game is bad or anything, but it's very one note, and it does wear on you quite a lot. I mean, no joke, the last 10 minutes of this, I was literally editing a video on my computer while I was just mashing X just to try and get through the game. Just because it wears on you so much, and unlike something like Mario Party, which was smart enough to break up the random dice rolling aspect of the game with fun mini-games. Well, fun from the second one. First one was just pain, and after that it was just boring, but still fun mini-games to break up the monotony, as well as help you get a leg up on your opponents. This one you don't have that, it's just dice rolling. The only thing in between you and your opponents rolling dice are these really, really nice backgrounds, which, don't get me wrong, they're gorgeous and they look beautifully hand-drawn, but they really only exist to make the game take longer and break the flow of game, which was kind of a baffling decision. And that's really the biggest thing about gameplay, is just the fact that unless you have a lot of time and patience on your hands, this game is going to get boring very, very, very quickly, because these matches do go on for a long time. And I have to stress, this is played on the fastest speed on the smallest map, because the maps get stupidly big later on. It's like, the smallest map took me 2 hours! This is gonna take me at least a couple days to beat. And it does wear on you. And that's the unfortunate thing. If it just had something to at least make it a little bit more engaging than just rolling a dice and hoping for the best. I mean, if it had more gameplay than just rolling dice and shuffling through menus to decide what story you have, it would certainly be far more engaging, but as it stands, just because of how long each match takes, it will wear on you quite a bit. That's the biggest and really only problem this game has. I mean, beyond that, it's quite a fun little enjoyable thing. For what it is, and that is a budget title. Now, the presentation of this game is pretty good. I mean, the sound design is quite well done. The soundtrack is pretty catchy, although, again, you'll be listening to like one song throughout the entire match, so it will wear on you quite a bit, which is unfortunate. That said, the soundtrack alone is relatively good. The visual presentation is pretty good. There's tons of different cute and wacky characters to pick from, which is cool. Anywhere from your generic cat to sexy Santa Claus, for reasons. The biggest problem with these characters is they only seem to have like 2 animations. But again, budget title. I will say that the interlude backgrounds are quite well done. You know, despite the fact that they really shouldn't be there. They are pretty and I do enjoy them quite a bit. They are nice to look at despite the fact that they really just exist to break flow and make the game take longer. And really, that's all that can be said about Top Shop. It is what it is. It's a budget title. It's trying to be a basic board game and it succeeds on pretty much every level. The biggest problem is the fact that despite the fact that you can modify how long a game will take, each game will still take a stupid amount of time. Do I recommend this game? Well, if you got a bunch of friends couch co-oping for a night, yeah, it could be a fun game. But if you're like me and you're just playing alone because you don't have friends and you're shut in and you're basically just fighting the computer, it's excruciatingly awful, let's be honest here. I mean, it starts out fun, but just the sheer length of the overall matches makes it kind of unbearable. And unlike being able to couch co-op with some friends, when someone dicks you over, you can't punch them. Seriously, that's the biggest flaw the AI has, is when they piss you off, you can't inflict physical harm on them. And likewise, when you screw them over, you can't laugh about it. Because they're just machines. Damn it.